PR Connections Radio presents.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Evelyn's RoundTable. This podcast highlights a host of relevant topics. Our conversations share voices of women of color, Black women veterans and veterans, allies, candidates, and elected officials, entrepreneurs, teachers, students, and others. We also explore important issues and challenges such as grassroots leadership, job training, homelessness, and mental health advocacy, accountability, male inclusion, and civics. Our mission statement is to empower all women. Do you hear me? All women to hold hands as we rise. Well, hello there. I am so proud and honored to have Levi on it. Y'all don't even understand out here. This is so important. This is someone that is really making it happen for veterans and civilians. I'm going to say that too. But I just appreciate you being on here and having real conversations about veterans. So could you please introduce yourself and please tell us a little bit about you?
Yes, so I'm honored to be here. I am, it is such an honor because I remember when we first met and you reached out and you said, "Oh, Navy," and I was like, "Army," but that was the first start, at the NAM meeting. But yeah, I'm Levi Schultz, the chair of the Nevada Veterans Caucus. I also am the state director for the Veterans and Military Families Council for the Democratic National Committee, and I am the second vice chair for the Nevada State Veterans Caucus.
Wow. Oh, wow. And you're right. When we first met, because I was like, who is this? and because you are cautious, right? And just want to put this out here, not everyone that is a veteran is doing things. Not to say that you have to do anything, but those that are calling yourself being in the grassroots and doing things, or not everybody's not doing things. And so I was apprehensive when we met. I was like, okay, why is he talking? And and then you're like, I want to be part of the American Legion. And I still went, what are you sure? are you being, because again, right? I mean, it's just the precautious thing, right? Of because not everybody that comes to you want to actually do anything. They just kind of want to be, I don't know what you want to call it, a groupie. I mean, let's just say it, right? And so I just want to thank you again. Well, let's get to it. Nevada Veteran Concerns. Woo! Man, we could probably have a whole 2 or 3 shows on this one. But can you talk about that a little bit? Your Nevada concerns, Nevada veteran concerns, because I sure got a whole lot. Housing, homelessness, mental health, just a bunch of disrespect.
Yes, I'm happy that you brought up that one, because what I'll say is that veterans in Nevada, across the board as a constituency, whether it be Democrat or Republican, have not received the respect that they deserve in the community. Particularly when talking to legislators, they have a stump speech about what they've experienced before with veterans, or about PTSD, or it's just the generalizations and the tropes that they've all heard about veterans. But they don't think of us as a unique constituency or diverse group of people. They don't think about the fact that there are women that there are LGBTQ people. They're all cross sections of society that are veterans, both high income earners and low income earners, that are within the veteran community, and it's so tough because there is a lack of respect even for our veteran legislators, to the point where our veteran legislators don't wear proudly that they are veterans. That's something that they should do. It should be the first thing you lead with. If I was in the state house or in the state senate, the first thing I would say is that this is a continuation of my service. I first served my country and gave my life, or put my life on the line for the country, and now I'm here to be a legislator. That would be the secondary aspect of my service. But it's not something that's respected. It's something that people like to they like to take a photo with us during election season, but they don't necessarily want to spend money on our interests, and they don't necessarily know how to approach us as a community.
Wow. You said a whole, because I'm over here and yep in and all that, because even me, even though I have a nonprofit, Nevada Women Trades, I say Evelyn Pacheco, Nevada Women Trades, Army veteran. It comes like rolls out there, right? And you're right, because okay, and it's like a so what? And then, or it's like, like we're putting that in their face. I'm like, well, it's neither one of that. I'm proud that I served. I am so proud. And I give it to the military for my strengths. Yeah, there were some things that happened, right? But the strengths that I carry, the go-get that I carry, the don't stop. And it doesn't matter what you're saying to me, because I know this is good for the people, by the people, with the people, right? And it's something. And even with the legislation, I'm just like, wow, you want us, again, the photo op, you one Veterans Day, the Veterans Parade, but any other time, nope. But you want the photo op from us. You want us to give you our logos, and then when we ask you for something, it's almost like you forget. Oh, that's right. I did want you to support me when I was running. Yeah, I did ask you for the logo. But then now when it comes time to help, and you just kind of, oh, well, maybe. And I don't even know, how do you think we deal with that? Because that's very irritating to me too.
So I'll say, I think the way to deal with it is through accountability. Our issues are no different than the issues of the general American public, but our issues should be a part of the elevation of those things, right? Like, I'll give you an example: housing in North Las Vegas and in Clark County in general. Private equity firms, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas came out with a study that said 15% of houses are owned by corporate entities. Yes. In Clark County and in North Las Vegas, where veterans are most prevalent, and have the largest presence. 25% of the homes are owned. So that's 1 in 4 homes are owned by corporate entities, which are squeezing people for rent and increasing property values. So that increases our property taxes and our costs of living. And it's something that is wearing people thin. But it's not just a veteran issue; it's an everybody issue that affects people. But as we know, a lot of veterans like to live in proximity to the VA because of care and services and their health care. So there's so many issues that have a cross section that I think we can ally with. Like, for instance, Senator Dina Neal put out a bill about limiting the amount of houses that corporations and individuals can purchase. I think if she were to come to the veterans community and speak to the veterans community about that bill, that the legislative advocates for veterans, we would definitely support legislation that's moving in the right step. But the problem is that we are not at the forefront of their minds when they're making this type of legislation. Senator Nicole Cannizzaro put forward a teacher's bill, a teacher's pay raise bill, and pre-K bill.
Mm-hmm.
Our children are in schools as well. So maybe come talk to the veterans community about our children getting universal pre-K, or about talk to veteran teachers like Assemblyman Ruben De Silva about how pay raises affect people like him that are Purple Heart recipients that receive VA disability, and how it will directly impact his life. So those are the conversations that need to be had, and we need to be consulted just as much as any other constituency when you're talking about the impacts of legislation.
And that's a lot, and I really have to agree with you on that too, because it's like, again, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, things like that. Then you want to talk to us, but when it comes to, because you're right, all things that we just said do overlap, right? Because we all have education, teachers, nieces, nephews, kids that are in school, housing. We're all having housing problems. I mean, it all crosses over, and I don't get that. I just, you only on Veterans Day you want to say, hey, but that's not still doing anything though, right? Because outside of that, what about the housing, the school, the and job training?
Oh yeah.
We show up for work, right? We show up for work.
It's upsetting to me because, one of the things that, and this is going to sound crass, but I think that we have to have honest conversations. On Memorial Day, one of the things that politicians love to do is rush to the memorial cemetery and stand over the graves of the heroes that served in their stead, in their generation, served so that they did not have to serve. And a lot of people don't think about the sacrifice. It's not just the sacrifice of you go on deployment and you leave your family, right? Or you go on deployment and you leave your friends and your hometown. The sacrifice is, for someone like me who went into the military at 18, is that we didn't have those college joys of throwing a football in a quad at UNLV with our friends. We were in combat zones and we were serving while these people went to college to become professionals, and they had a head start on us. That's why we have the GI Bill, so that we can later, after our service, pursue an education, because our education is based on whether the mission is fulfilled or not, if it's tuition assistance. So the sacrifice is that we have voluntarily stood in their place as volunteers to serve the country and protect them, and that they have lived under the blanket of security that we've provided. And then they turn around and stand on hallowed graves on Memorial Day and talk about their understanding of the sacrifice. But the veteran has sacrificed their entire life, because they've gone and they've served in combat, they've come back, they've either received an education or didn't receive their education with the GI Bill. They've dealt with PTSD. They've dealt with a VA system that they've continuously had to fight over and over again to get adequate care. And then they pass away. And oftentimes at those funerals, which I've been to countless veterans' funerals, there's a folded flag in their stead that sits on a fireplace mantle in their stead. To me, that's the thing that I wish more legislators understood. I wish they understood that sacrifice, because there's more sacrifice than just we served in dangerous areas during conflict. It entails so much more. So when you talk to veterans about the sacrifice that they've done, or you talk about Memorial Day, we should be talking about the situations that lead to 22 veterans a day committing suicide, and the type of society that we've created, where we don't listen to their interests, but we're more than happy to say thanks for your service. But it's so empty. That is very empty when you don't have substantive legislation that's actually making the wrongs right.
Yeah. And then the other part is you go to a meeting and you hear, well, my grandfather served, but I'm going to kick you out if you don't talk right in here, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And that to me is horrible. I mean, seriously, and that's fine. You know, my dad served too. My uncles all served, my aunts, my uncles, but I served and I volunteered, like you said. I wasn't, I'm not saying nothing against draft or anything about that or being drafted, but I was never drafted. I went because I'm standing on the grounds of my country. I want to make this a movement. I want to do things to change. I want to support what's going on. It's just, I don't like that when I hear that. Not to say again, I'm not saying nothing's wrong with your grandfather serving or anything, but to say that and then to turn around and be disrespectful.
It's patronizing. It's patronizing because the service and the sacrifice. Well, when you do that and then you disrespect a veteran, you're denigrating your relative service and the service of everyone who has ever served in the military. I mean, I've had some really interesting encounters with senators and assembly folks on both sides of the aisle that have been less than desirable. I think that you should lead with the respect when you're talking to a veteran, and that's what we're aiming to build toward, is to strengthen our numbers and our coalition so that the needs of the veteran are absolutely undeniable, because every veteran in every nook and cranny of society will be there to hold their government accountable, and their political party, whichever way they affiliate, accountable. I think that's very important that we are civically engaged, because then we can provide that insight to those who would like to listen. But one of the things that we're used to as veterans is sometimes we can knock on the door and someone will answer, but sometimes we have to kick that door down, and we have to call out someone and speak truth to power and say, how dare you? I've stood beside plenty of folks in power and say, how dare you? I'm a veteran. I've served this country, and I swore an oath to give my life for this country, not to sit in an office and write legislation, but to literally die for the United States Constitution and our way of life. And that comes with a level of respect that we're entitled to, because we did that.
And you know what? And you just gave me an idea about FOIA that I'm going to do, because we were talking about this previously. And I feel that way. And it's like, wait a minute, you're standing here talking to me disrespectful and everything. And I submitted 2 bills in this legislation helping women to change their lives, and even some men I have been doing this for. And you stand there and deny me of not being able to be in the meeting. You denied me about any information. I mean, it's just, but the way you just put it, I think I'm going to put that on this FOIA that I'm talking about writing up here, because you're right. Where is that? Where is that at? And you talk about entitlement and elite, but I think we are. I agree with you. I am entitled. I mean, like you just said, I did these things, you did these things so you could do those things. I did it for you. Oh,
exactly.
I love that. I love that. That is so, yes. And even the housing for veterans and the living situations and the homeless veterans. And I'm not saying everybody's like, well, all the homeless want to be up the street. I agree, but not all of them want to be homeless either. So you can use that, because that's the first thing that, well, not everyone wants to get up. Well, okay, but we're not even helping the ones that want to get off the street. In the living situations that certain organizations, I'm not going to say, that I think is horrible that they're living under. I mean, drug infested areas, roaches, those. I mean, it's like, wow, like you're really, and it's hard to, I mean, you kind of say things, but if you say something at that moment, then they don't want you on the property no more. And then you get barred from everything, right? And then too, I want to get a list. I got some kind of a list, but of all those that are renting rooms in houses, right? And there's not really a whole lot.
Well, the thing is that when it comes down to our society, veterans permeate our society, high income earners to the lowest of the low income earners, right? We have homeless veterans out there. Organizations, especially if they're for profit, even if they're nonprofit, they have to be monitored. There has to be some sort of oversight, and that oversight has to come from the government, particularly unconventional forms of leadership that are outside of the comfort zone. That's where I think that we need more state legislature involvement. We need more federal involvement if they're receiving federal dollars. We need the congressional delegation to go to the VA and not go to the VA on a guided tour. We need them to go to organizations and nonprofits and see exactly how they work, and to go there to not just take a tour, but to do the work, to perhaps volunteer at facilities, just so they can see what's going on, and not be blinded by the show that's put on when they typically go to these environments. One of the things, it's no secret, I ran for U.S. Congress in the primary. One of the things that I did while I was running for Congress is I slept on the street and I went through the shelter process myself. And I did it without any cameras, and I did it without any press. But as a congressional candidate, I went through the process. I slept in a sleeping bag on the street, and I went through the shelter, and I saw exactly what was going on. When I went to Cheyenne High School, with the ROTC program, and I sat and had lunch with the kids. I watched and talked to these kids without the administration picking some of the favorites and giving me the guided tour. And I found out about the violence in schools. I found out about what the kids' fears are. That's the type of leadership that it takes for us to understand exactly what's happening and for us to have direct oversight, is because when these people are running these organizations, they should have a fear. If I was in U.S. Congress or the State House, there would be a fear that Assemblyman Schultz can show up at any time and see exactly what's going on here, because I would do it. I would show up. That's what it takes. It takes showing up. It takes being there. It takes that fear of oversight for them to actually correct it. They should say, well, if Assemblyman Schultz shows up today, or Senator Schultz shows up today, or Congressman Schultz shows up today, it would be embarrassing and it would be catastrophic if he walked into a room and saw someone doing drugs in a veterans home facility. It would be catastrophic. That should be the fear. But we don't lead unconventionally, and we also don't have enough veterans in the State House or in the halls of Congress.
Yes, and I'm really hoping, and this brings me, I guess, to the next thing, because I like that, what you're talking about. I really do, and it's something, because that's what we're doing, right? I mean, me and you but it's not enough. Like you said, I mean, it's like we're holding you accountable, but it was so sad about it. They get angry when you want to hold them accountable. They want to get in your face. They want to get loud. They want to tell you that they're going to block you from meetings. They want to talk up. And I'm just like, wow. So you're mad about being held accountable, but what brings me to what you are doing, which I'm so proud of you, is the Nevada Veterans Caucus. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So it's about advocacy through legislation at the state and federal level, wherever we fit in. And it's getting in front of these legislators and explaining to them the needs of veterans, and getting them to carry bills that veterans put forward, or that will better veterans in the state of Nevada. It's important that we do this because government is the only tool that we have to manifestly change people's quality of life permanently, right? Through laws, once we codify some of these things, and some of this oversight, it allows for the life of any individual, not just veterans, to be much better. That's why it's such an important avenue for any constituency to pursue legislative power, is because it serves their interests, and that's exactly what we need. The problem is that we, quite frankly, if I'm being honest, we're kneeling down with worn out tools to do this, because in the state of Nevada, we don't have a big veterans infrastructure. We don't have a massive, presence within the state legislature. We're kind of an afterthought. So, and I noticed this when I sat in California's Democratic Veteran Caucus meeting. California, the chair of the California Democratic Veterans Caucus, Chef Basil Kimbrough, he is able to summon the lieutenant governor to his general meeting. The lieutenant governor of California, like one of the largest states in the union, he can summon up the the lieutenant governor and the members of the party executive board. And with last minute, he said, "Oh, I'm going to call the lieutenant governor, and she's going to join our meeting tonight." And he did during the meeting. And the lieutenant governor stepped outside of her, because she's campaigning for governor. She stepped outside of her campaign event and spoke to the veterans. When now Senator Adam Schiff was here, Chef Basil had a personal relationship with Senator Adam Schiff, to the point where he has their personal phone number. So that's what we're trying to build to in Nevada. But it's because in California, they've taken an approach that I've taken, which is to call it out, to say, "Oh, you don't want to talk to veterans? You don't want to talk to those who served?" And call out legislators and say, "You need to talk to us. You need to make time for us, because we have made such a massive contribution, more so than any other constituency that you can think of. We've made our lives down for the country. So if you can't fit 5 minutes in to hear about a veteran's concerns or about a veteran's issue, then you, quite frankly, you don't deserve to serve in that seat. We are the first people. We are the front lines to preserve the Constitution and democracy, because what it takes to do that is it takes people willing to spill their own blood in order to ensure democracy. The way that these stripes on this flag stay red is through the blood of veterans laying their lives down to make sure that this flag stays red, white, and blue. So that's what it takes. I mean, the American flag was literally used to dress battle wounds in the early wars of the United States. So that's that's where we're coming from. If you can't make time for us, then I'm sorry, but the photo ops don't happen, and you can't claim that you're a loyal supporter of veterans, and we won't say that you are.
Yeah, and even deeper than that, if we get a call, we still got to go. It's not like, and then you know what? We are gonna go, right? We're not gonna say, oh no, I'm not gonna. No, if me and you got a call right now and said, okay, you got to report, we would go. It wouldn't even be hesitance. It wouldn't even be. It'd be like, okay, we got to go. I mean, it's always we're not. Oh my gosh, you empowered me now. But I'm telling you, with this 40 I'm finna do, I'm gonna call you up so I get the last words on the veteran, because that is something that I agree with you with. That all the papers need to be saying that. Everything that we do need to be having that statement. I am a veteran. I served, and it's the truth.
Exactly.
And man, because it's the truth. And we're different. And as much as disrespect we get, we still hang in there. We still do what we do, but it's time to change that. And I'm really, really excited that you're running this. And I'm glad that it's called Nevada Veterans Caucus. I love that, because now all can be involved, right? Everyone can be involved. It's not, okay, you're a Democrat, that's fine. But we have nonpartisan veterans. We do independent veterans. You know,
we're all brothers and sisters bound together by our service. We may not all disagree. We may not all agree on the politics of it, but we all agree on the work that has to be done. There's a lot of work that has to be done, and our mission to coalesce around is the work. It's not the partisanship, right? And that's what it's all about. And truly, if we are the way I used to say on the campaign trail is, as a candidate, it was my job to give you someone to vote for. It was my job to give you a reason to vote for me. For us, we are an organization chartered by the Democratic Party. But when you join our organization, it's our job to convince you of the values of the Democratic Party, because we're a part of your life, right? We are there. We're the ones that are there. We're the ones that will take the case and the call at 2 a.m. We're the ones that will go to our legislators and try to make it happen. And we do have great legislators that will intervene on behalf of veterans. It's just the fact that we want all legislators to do that, to have that same allegiance to veterans that the great ones do, and to be able to understand us, because that's the number one. That is the number one thing that I ask legislators to do, is to put yourself in the shoes of a veteran. Put yourself in the shoes of someone who has served, who has been maimed in combat. Go to the VA. I personally think that we should invite these legislators and lawmakers to some of the, I guess, the more solemn things that we have to do as brothers and sisters in arms for each other. I get calls all the time to go to funerals for veterans, and I'll tell you, one of the saddest funerals I ever went to was a woman who lost her husband suddenly to a heart attack. And when you see these two Marines fold the flag over that's draped over this casket, and then crouch down and say, on behalf of the President of the United States and the United States Marine Corps, we want to thank you and your husband for your service. This is what this woman has left of her husband, is this flag that represented and symbolized his selfless devotion to his country. That is something that is extremely difficult to watch And it's something that a lot of lawmakers don't go out of their way to see. And I think that they should see it, because I think that it puts it into perspective what we deal with and what we get. And then you have to ask that question: is that enough? Is that flag enough for for people to have left over? Is that all that we served for? Do we serve to be a flag on a mantle? No, we serve so that we can come back to our country and be taken care of for the sacrifice that we made during our service. Whether it was experiencing military sexual trauma, or serving in the direct line of combat, or experiencing adverse health effects like cancer and respiratory issues that President Biden passed the PACT Act to resolve and grant us benefits for. There's it's an abundance of sacrifice, or it's losing brothers and sisters. I've had more friends than I care to talk about that have lost their lives to suicide, not on the battlefield, but when they came back from service.
Right.
It's something that we have to deal with. Or they lose their lives due to recklessness because they're wrestling with substance abuse or alcohol abuse. That's why Veterans Treatment Court is so important for that. But those are the types of programs that we need to give veterans the tools for, because people don't realize, just like you, Evelyn, you're out there, you're leading a nonprofit organization that's empowering women to get into trades, which is it has value, 100% value is what it gives our society and what it gives our economy. Because the more people you have in trades, the more gets done, the more available hands you have to work, which means someone else's pay is someone else's income. So you have more people participating in our economy. It's something that you should receive a lot of credit for doing. Those are the types of programs that need to be highlighted, and those are the types of things that veterans are doing, continuing their service.
Yes, and you're right. Continuing this, and even too, like you're talking about, going to the places and the things that we're doing. Even and thank you for being the second vice for American Legion. I want everybody to know that too. He has that. Yes. And that we go to the VA, and that is so humbling. Oh my goodness. To go in those rooms and listen to, these are Vietnam vets that are, a lot of them, not all of them, but oh my goodness, and then for me to be, oh, you're aggressive, and oh yeah, Evelyn, I'm thinking, but wait a minute. You haven't seen these Vietnam veterans. You want to talk about being up front, straight to the point, and I love it. You know what I mean? I really do, because then it lets me know, oh, wait a minute. You're saying that you ain't seen nothing yet. And it's something that's almost like you said, it's like we got to get back on that level. Because we kind of like, the Vietnam veterans did carry this in World War II. They are and I'm not saying they're mean or anything like that, but they're straight to the point on what they want and how they want it done. And I'm thinking, I'm not even doing part of that, but maybe I need to start, because you're already saying that I'm aggressive. I'm like, well, wait a minute. You look at the dictionary for aggressive. That means you're violent. That means you're putting your hands. I said, I'm not doing any of that at all. But I really love the relationships I have, even with my Vietnam veteran brothers and sisters and my mentors and everything. And you're right. To go in those rooms at the VA, I think that you're right. They need to. And that's why I'm really, really glad that you're leading this, and you have a good group that's leading it with you and going to be there. And I'm very excited for the changes that are about to happen. I really am. I'm ready. And I think a lot of us are ready for that, because there is so much disrespect. And I'm tired of hearing, thank you for your, because when I hear that, I'm like, oh, because I'm like, well, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is that it is it is something to be said there's something to be said for folks calling a disenfranchised group of people who aren't properly served by society aggressive when they pursue their needs. It's actually it's actually funny to me because what we're actually doing is we're fighting to ensure that we have the promise that this nation has given us, which President Lincoln, when Civil War veterans came back from war, made the promise to the American veteran that they shall be taken care of for the rest of their lives, right? That's why when I hear this disappointing talk about veterans receiving benefits that are too generous already, or the privatization of the VA, it's upsetting to me because there should be absolutely no cuts to veterans benefits because we made a decision to put our lives on the line. And I don't think that people understand the true gravity of that. When you're an 18-year-old who has nothing but the world in front of them, you're 18, 19, 20, you have nothing but the rest of your life in front of you, and you raise your right hand to swear an oath on the United States Constitution that you will give your life to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that you will obey the orders of the officers appointed over you, in which case those officers can give you orders, lawful orders, that will lead to your death. When those Vietnam veterans and World War II veterans were fighting on the beaches of Normandy, and they were commanded by their lieutenants to storm the hill, that was an order that would lead them to certain death. Or when you listen to the stories of those Coast Guard Higgins boat captains that were navigating the mine-laden waters leading into the beaches of Normandy, and they had to put the gate down of the Higgins boat that was armored. And when that gate came down, they knew that the bullets would tear through those men, and only a few of them would make it onto the shore, and that their own lives were in peril by doing so. They were exposed as well. They did that job. I talked to a veteran who said that was his role. He was a Higgins boat operator in World War II, and he did that 14 times. He let that ramp down 14 times, letting boatloads of men go into battle who knew they were marching into their death. That there's a certain level of respect that should come from that level of sacrifice that we all have put ourselves on the line to do.
And it's, you know what, and that is so, I still haven't watched it. That's hard for me to watch that. It really is, because they're going to their death, and you're thinking, wow, those, and they're like 17 and all of that, and my dad went in at 17, and I'm just like, wow, the man, it just gives me chills even now. I'm just like, it's really hard because I didn't have bullets shooting at me in that like that, but I totally understand the sacrifice. And I just think, and I'm just really, again, I can't wait to get started with the Nevada Veterans Caucus. I am like so eager to get going on this. And I'm really so grateful and humbled that I'm doing the labor part of it, because I'm already in that. And I'm already seeing everything that's going on. And it's just like, wow, like, why can't we get a good job too? We don't make this sacrifice. Now you're blocking this too. And it's just like, I don't know. I think that our first meeting, that's something I would love to talk about on how we're going to do that. I know you're already going to do that, but I can't wait for that conversation. And even with the other, the state, what's the state caucus, right? That needs to be a conversation. Like, what are we doing? Because I'm not doing it.
What are the efforts? Like, what are The thing is that it has to be substantive. You know, one of the things that I'll say about the political side of it is we cannot expect loyalty from a voter base if we're not active in their lives. We have to be there for the voter base and for our constituency groups, not just when the election is happening, but throughout the years, so that when the time comes for them to vote, they have that on their minds. We have a permanent presence in that person's mind because they know I went to this organization when I was down and out and my spouse was mistreated because they're a veteran. I called the Nevada Veterans Caucus, and they fought for us through legislature to get this done. Or I'm on my deathbed and I want to be buried at Boulder City National Cemetery, and I want my spouse to be interned there too after I pass. It was Nevada Veterans Caucus that fought for that, for my spouse to be able to be interned at the Boulder City National Memorial Cemetery. Those are the things that we need to be known for attending funerals, for being there for people, for consoling our brothers and sisters. And we have to work in conjunction with other people who may not be politically aligned with us in ideology. But it's about, like I said, it's about doing the work. It's about getting and serving the people. And that's I'm a big fan of servant leadership. I think that if you're a public servant, it's incumbent on you to listen to the needs of the people. At least make time for it, because you, as a public servant, you serve us. We don't serve you.
And that's why I can't wait to get with this. I'm telling you, because that has stopped. That has totally went away. Totally has went away. And like you said, some are, but I'm telling you, what is it? Probably 80% is not doing what you just talked about, because they think we don't mean anything. And not even just North Las Vegas, Pahrump has a big presence of veterans too. And yes, it's time. And it's
throughout the state. I mean, we have our tribal brothers and sisters that are veterans that have served. Like, need I remind people of the Navajo Code Talkers that were one of the most decorated units in military history.
And we needed them.
Exactly. You have, the 6,888 Black women served, and fought hard in the military service. And Tuskegee Airmen, Wendell Pruitt and Lee Archer. We've got so many different cross sections. We have Latino groups in the military that have served and fought. Matter of fact, one of the things
Asians too.
Exactly. A lot. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. World War, and especially during the World War II period, when their families could have been facing internment in Japanese internment camps. So when you talk about, veterans, it's such a broad group of veterans. There's LGBTQ veterans. There's so many different types of people have served. And it does a disservice if we view that along partisan lines. There's a lot of veterans in law enforcement because there's intersectionality there. People get out of the military and they go serve. They go serve in law enforcement, as our governor Lombardo did. So that's there's a common ground there. I say as long as there's a common thread, we have something to work toward. And I'm willing to work with anybody who's willing to support veterans and do the work. I think it's so often are we divided amongst the things that we don't have in common, when we should focus on the things that we do have in common as Americans. I
agree. And we're getting close to, man, you're going to have to come back on here again and finish this conversation. We're going to have to, but you have any last words or anything you want to say out here to all of them that are listening to this and Any last thoughts?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I would like to say, multi-pronged to our legislators. Sit down and listen and talk to veterans and see what their needs are, and try to understand and put yourself in their shoes. To my fellow veterans, reach out to us. Reach out to your brothers and sisters in the community. We are on all forms of social media. The Nevada Veterans Caucus is particularly active on Instagram. We've got a website coming. Reach out to Evelyn. Evelyn is a post commander for the American Legion. That's a great resource, and it's also amazing that she's a Black woman that is a post commander for the American Legion. You don't see that often. So reach out to veterans in your community, and we will connect you to resources, and we'll connect you to help and to community and camaraderie. So don't be the person who don't be the non-squeaky wheel, because you will not get the attention that you need. You've got to speak out. You've got to step into your community, and we will help you and embrace you. And just in general, for people who did not serve, be there for those who did, and understand the sacrifice that they made, and that it says something. It says something for an 18-year-old to swear their life to a mission, because that is a recognition of mortality that the average 18-year-old does not have. When you swear an oath to give your life for your country, and it's very possible that you may give your life, you have to face your own sense of mortality, and the fact that you will die one day. And that's something that a lot of us don't have to face until much later on in our lives, but veterans have to face it very early at the onset of our service.
Yes. Yeah. I joined when I was 20, and you're right. I could be doing all kinds of things at 20. Oh my gosh. But that was what I chose, and still choosing, and it just doesn't go away. And you're right. That's what civilians need to understand. The mission never stops. It just doesn't. And I want to say too that do buddy checks too, because there's the holiday season. Lots of things are going on. Like you said, there's, family members or things are happening, maybe things that you're thinking about in your own life. But please, everyone out here, do buddy checks and check on. You don't have to have a long conversation. Just, hey, how you doing? Are you all right? And there you go. That's part of it. And again, think about our fellow veterans out here, because we are human and we are people too. We're not animated. We're here. We're here, and we're here to do service. And then I'll leave you all with, thank you for being on here. Thank you so much, Levi, because, oh my gosh, this was so good. I even learned some things myself. And I just want to give my mission statement to empower all women, for us to hold hands as we rise. And thank you all, everyone. Please come back.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.